What's going on, family? It has been a while. Sir Ashley here. I want to bring you a live stream tonight. I believe it's Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday the 25th. And I wanted to talk about some things that are all in the news. We're going to talk about what people are calling Biden's socialism plan when it comes to housing, LLPAs, and we'll dive into if it is true that people with better credit or good credit and higher down payments are getting penalized when it comes to getting a home loan. We're also going to touch on the new numbers from Case-Shiller. Pretty surprising, seeing if home prices went up or down. That is the gold standard. It's not what I really like because it's old data, but it's the gold standard right now. And we're going to touch on new home construction and what's going on, because I've been seeing a lot of videos, fear videos from, your favorite fear YouTube video creators, wanting to scare you regarding the housing market. We're going to touch on new construction and if they are really going under or what's happening. But I do have a guest tonight, somebody that I admire, somebody that I followed on Instagram for months, if not a year. And I knew she was in the Charlotte area. And I finally went to a workshop and she was presenting and I talked to her. Very rarely do I get giddy, but I got giddy when I talked to her, and come to find out, she is very personable and damn near a neighbor of mine right around the corner. So I'd like to bring on the stream Rebecca Richardson. Oh, and she is one of the top, is it loan originators in the country?
Yep.
Loan originators in the entire country. No matter where you're looking to buy a home, she can definitely help. Her and her team can help you. They are the Loan Avengers.
Lender Avengers.
Lender Avengers. They are absolutely killing it when it comes to the mortgage industry. And please, Rebecca, please just tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. I loved meeting you in the class and then just comparing notes. And I was like, ah, instant friend. Okay. Like it's always nice, when you meet somebody that's a kindred spirit. I have been an originator since 2001. So I have seen quite a few of, the roller coaster of real estate and all kinds of different markets and all of those things. And so I still 22 years in, love this business. I love helping people, get what they want from, home buying standpoint, from refinancing, just really kind of get into the weeds of that. And it's fun for me because it's kind of like an algebra equation and a Rubik's Cube. So it always stays fresh. It's fun. It's not all markets are fun, but being able to help people, navigate that path, with the experience and expertise that I have. And then my team, it's nice to be able to, support people how we can, where we can.
No, your guidance and your passion, or your guidance is evident in your knowledge and everything, but your passion for it just it spills over when you talk about it. So
Well, because
thank you
everybody wants
for
to grow. Every little kid grows up wanting to be a mortgage broker, right? It's
you make it fun.
that's right.
You make it fun and
So,
interesting.
oh yeah, no, listen, it's fine. But I do genuinely love it. But when I moved back to Charlotte, I met with an accountant one time, and he had this sign up on his wall that I thought was perfect. So I co-opted it, and it's basically mortgage bankers aren't, or mortgage lenders aren't, boring people. They just get excited about boring things. So I understand that it might not always be as exciting as it has been this last week about mortgages, but I feel that way about the market pretty much year round. 24/7,
Yes.
365. So you might not be excited about it, but I am on your behalf.
No, and I'm excited on their behalf as well. So, real quick, I want to shout out Veronica. Thank you for tuning in, and Knight. Thank you for tuning in. And my setup is a little weird. I apologize. I was supposed to get on at 7 o'clock. I was having technical difficulties, and I'm using a computer that I don't typically use. So if you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at your comments and Rebecca right now, because typically I can do both, look at the camera and look at my screen, but so is life. I can't do it tonight. We're going to
All
push
you
through.
can do is adapt and overcome, right?
Exactly, exactly. I'm big on just adapting and making the best of it. So I appreciate you suffering through it with me because I was the holdup. I
It's
couldn't get my
fine.
audio to work, so I appreciate it. Uh, I want to jump right into something that I know you've made videos on. I have not made a video on it, but I've been getting tons of messages, Instagram posts sent to me regarding what people are calling Biden's socialism plan as it comes to housing, where it
Right.
appears the people with good credit and save down payment, things that they've been taught to do. Sorry, let me change this camera angle so you can see wide,
Hmm.
which they've been taught to do when they go apply for a loan. The news out there is they're being penalized and punished for being good stewards. And then people with lower credit and lesser down payment are getting a better rate. Can we
Right.
touch on the truthfulness, the fallacies in it of it?
Sure.
What's going on?
So the truth that at least we can all agree on is that these LLPAs, which are loan level pricing adjustments, and all that means is a way to factor in the risk of a loan as it relates to credit score and down payment. So these loan level pricing adjustments are changing, but in reality, they already have changed. And what I mean by that is the reason that it's in the news is because the effective date of this change is May 1st. And so that's the timeliness of it. The interesting fact, and this is where we have to separate, and that's where I think you and I love creating so much, is just like, let's just separate the facts from, the spin and the emotion and things like
Hmm.
that. But the fact is that this change was already announced back in January.
Yep.
And I'll come back. So I'll try to remember so I don't forget, but
And
there was a
real
feature
quick,
of
let me
that.
cut you off
Yeah.
real quick, real quick. It came out in January, and I did a live stream with Ortez Fields. He's another mortgage
Yeah.
broker in the area, and we
Yeah.
talked about this change coming. If you go back,
Good.
if the viewers, if you go back and watch, we
Yeah.
told you it was coming. So I was like
Yes.
really annoyed when everybody's um, was putting out these scare videos and everything like that
Yes.
because it goes into effect May 1st. But yeah, just know we've talked about it on this channel months and months ago. Um,
Yes.
but here's the rest of the public catching up. But please share,
Right. And I
Rebecca.
think
I
I think to
apologize.
your point is professionals, creators, educators like you do want to put that information out there. You have put that information out there, but it's not until kind of mainstream media picks it up and then puts their spin on it for their own clicks and all of the other things, right? Everybody's
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to get our attention. So I get that, but the information was really, really wrong in what went out. So coming back to the dates, again, this was announced in January. It comes effective in May. The thing is that these loan level pricing adjustments, which can affect either the fees that you pay or the rate, which we can get into if you want to get into that much detail, but basically those changes,
Hmm.
because it means loans that have already closed and will then be delivered to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, who set the rules and these loan level pricing adjustments for conventional loans, that already had to start to be priced in, meaning those were already in effect back to, some lenders started rolling them out early March, mid-March, but it basically means these loans have to have already closed.
Yes.
So or they have to have already closed at least to be able to meet this May 1st delivery date. They would not be able to be sent to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac if they did not have these in place. So that's where the May 1st part comes into play. Now, as far as who is paying more, who is subsidizing, all of those kind of things, the fact is that fees have gone up for some categories, some down payment and credit score categories. The heat map basically that everybody is really kind of paying attention to, and that's probably what you've seen, where there's kind of this bullseye or almost kind of like a cross around that 15% down payment mark, and then it's really, really red there, and then it spreads out to green, and then you see first time home buyers who are putting 3% down, they have a lot less. They're very green. And then this red where it's like, okay, I've got great scores and I've got a down payment. Why am I red and why are they green? The thing to keep in mind is that those aren't the actual adjustments. That chart, if that's what you're seeing, those are not the actual adjustments to the rate that you are offered, or basically the calculations that determine the rate that you're offered, to be more accurate. That is, has it gotten better or has it gotten worse, and by how much? And so essentially, as an overview for these LLPA changes, it has narrowed the gap a little bit from the standpoint of not penalizing first-time home buyers who are maybe putting 3% down but do have good scores as much or it's not penalizing them as much. And then for the buyers that have great scores but are almost at that 20% mark but not quite, their terms have gotten worse. And the reason for that is it's not so much credit score driven, it's really tied to the down payment, because for years, basically, because these LLPA changes happen and they're normally a non-event. But or it certainly doesn't make national news. It's very boring, very complex. Most people don't care. But essentially what happened is that for years we have had kind of I call it like a down payment cheat code, right? So it's almost like a coupon code or a discount code. Is you could put 19% down, right? So you're not quite at the 20%, you put 19% down. Now you would have to have mortgage insurance. And people would say, well, why would I do that? Why would I not just push on to 20% down? Because, I don't want to have PMI. The reason is because PMI also isn't a penalty. It is a way to leverage money. And for the lenders for years and years, in particularly that band, a little bit, kind of the 10% plus, but very much in that 15 to 20%, those terms were so cheap because they had that coverage. They evaluated basically the risk on that loan as lower than a 20% down payment, because you were almost there, but not quite. But we as a lender are better protected because of the mortgage insurance policy. So people in that band were getting rates and basically terms as if they were putting 25% down. So that's where it's kind of like, well, was that fair at that point for the people who are putting 20% down, who are putting that extra percent? If we want to use the argument of it's being subsidized, that 20% band, kind of that golden ticket, that peak goal, that people have in their mind for conventional loans, they were kind of subsidizing it for the 19.5% down payment folks because they were getting such better terms. And that's where you're seeing that intensity kind of the color as far as that getting worse. Is it's really not a penalty against credit score. It's really more bringing it in line with your down payment as a risk factor. So that's kind of the main overview for that chart.
Yes.
And there are other subtleties in there, but it's not as much of kind of like a redistribution of wealth that some people have said. It looks like it based on that chart, but it's just not when you get into the actual math.
Exactly. And are there ways in which I know you touched on it, well, you read into it, you touched on it, ways in which you could get a better pricing depending on the down payment you put down, regardless of your credit score?
You can. So there's not going to be a hard and fast rule, right?
Yeah.
So we're not going to necessarily say, okay, instead of now doing, the cheat code has moved from 15% to 5%. And I'll go through kind of an exercise for that to just explain it. Cause again, I'll always come back to math. But from that standpoint, it will vary a little bit because it is, it's a Y and an X axis. So we're going to want to marry up where's kind of the ideal down payment for you as an individual borrower, not just to say like, okay, you need to do 10%. It's not as straight down the line the way there was
cut and dry.
15%. Because the other thing is when you get into the actual math of it, because again, these are adjustments. Remember, these are adjustments basically like points. So think of them more as loan fees, not additions to your rate. And so those fees, although perhaps, let's say as an example, I think it's 3% down. Let's say 3% down has a much larger or has a better, pricing adjustment than 15% down. When you actually calculate that off to loan amount, meaning, okay, let's say that I choose to put, I'll do 5% because I think that's the math that I have in my head from a video I did. But let's say it's a $400,000 home and you put 5% down versus, 15% down. The difference that you get there when it comes down to not talking about the adjustments as a percentage, because that looks like a bigger disparity. When you get into what that actually meant from loan fees, it's less than $500. And so I've seen some people, I've seen some people saying, oh, okay, well, here's the new cheat code, put 5% down, get the better pricing. Then 1 month after closing, pay your principal balance down, do a recast, which I think is a great thing, but it misses the mark on this point. And then you'll get the better terms, but then you'll get your payment recalculated once you put down the rest of your down payment. That all sounds great. And it's like, yes, like how can we beat the system? Because a lot of people really feel like housing has failed them, in multiple ways.
Many people.
So how do we kind of get our edge? What'd you say?
That's the thing. No, I'm saying You said it exactly. Like many
Yeah.
people believe that housing has failed them in many ways, and they're
Yeah.
very, very skeptical. And even what millennials, we saw our parents go through it.
Yes.
So we're like very hesitant, and any kind of negative news or negative spin, we latch onto it as a
Right.
whole. Um, but once you dive in, it, it,
It's
it
it's
might not
it's
be
less
as
than $500 is the
exactly.
punchline. And
Yeah.
because a lot of, you know, servicers will charge anywhere between
Hmm.
150 to $500 to process
Yes.
that recast, it comes out net neutral. So that's why I'm saying it comes down to a one-to-one conversation with a lender to say, okay, here's the money that you have to play with. How are we going to be the most efficient with it? How are we going to be the most strategic with
Hmm.
it versus there being this like, again, kind of like cheat code where you can get one back over on the government because,
Yeah.
we're all mad about various things. It's just not
Yes.
there.
Real quick, if you have a question regarding the housing market, please leave it in the comment section and put a Q on it if you don't mind. And go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us out and just brings more awareness to this live stream. I know it's been a while since I've live streamed. Um, I had like dental work done. Even today, I was in the dentist today, so I've
Oh
been
man.
in and out of the dentist. It's right in our area, in and out of the dentist for the past month. Long story short, I got headbutted by my 4-year-old. We were
Oh,
playing, and yeah, I ended up needing an implant, and it's been a
that listen, that
challenge.
you dad very close to the sun, very close to the sun. I mean, that's intense. And
Uh,
4-year-olds are both adorable and absolute tyrants. So I can
yeah.
absolutely believe that. And then probably gave you a big hug.
Yes, yes. I mean, I couldn't be angry at her cute face, and she wasn't hurt at all. And here I am. I felt like part of my tooth in my mouth, like come out and in my mouth. So
Yeah, and
it
she's
was
probably like, okay, snack. And you're like, just need just a minute.
exactly, exactly. So it's been a struggle for me. That's part of the reason why I haven't been putting out some videos. Of people have been asking. I see we have 30 viewers watching right now. Thank you all for watching. Um, and part of the reason is one, busy with work, and then two, juggling my dental issues and appointments.
I believe it.
But here we are. And again, if you have any questions, leave comments and we'll dive into those questions. I did want to bring up an article real quick.
Hmm.
And actually, I just did something wrong.
This is most definitely not Technology Tuesday because I've had my own struggles. So maybe there's a solar
Uh,
flare or something.
all right, are we seeing it now? Okay. So
Hmm.
right now I have an article here from, which article is it?
Mortgage News Daily. I know that
Mortgage
website.
News Daily, yes, Mortgage News Daily, talking about home prices much more resilient than expected
Right.
because you've seen it for the past, or for past forever, but definitely for the past 2, 3 years. Everybody and their mother has been saying there's going to be a housing crash,
Hmm.
um, but the data just doesn't bear that out. That's that small little thing, like the facts, just keep getting in the way of this. Everybody saying there's a housing crash, and we got the Case-Shiller and FHFA numbers today,
Hmm.
and the forecast for the Case-Shiller, which looks at it's a 20 city index for those of you unaware, and it is the gold standard what people have been using for years regarding home prices and looking to see what the housing market is doing. Um, there was a modest increase in home prices of 0.1%. So everybody that was saying there was a crash from last year to this year, and granted, this takes back February numbers. So if you go back in time and look at what was happening,
Hmm.
February closings are actually December and January contracts.
Hmm.
So if we think back on to viewers, if you think back what was happening in what January and December, mortgage rates were crazy high. They were what hovering right around 7, correct?
Yeah, I was gonna say, just thinking kind of December and January. I mean, that was I can't off the top of my head, know exactly what date it is. I saw my business partners in the comments, so maybe he can Google it and make us
Yes.
look really smart. But December and January was tough. I mean, it was like the people, one, because obviously that's typically seasonally slow, but
Yes.
that we kind of doubled down on that, right? If people are in the
Hmm.
market, like they really either need to or they have to buy, and I think that was where I hate the expression, but the whole marry the house and date the rate. But I think that was
Yeah.
those kind of that sentiment of buyers right then, which was, look, I know the rate's not great, but can I qualify for it? Yes. Can I afford it? Sure. And I just know it'll get better. But this is my chance because the crowd is kind of thinned a little bit,
Hmm.
to kind of get in there. So I'm not surprised because, again, yes, we saw more normal, kind of transactions. People weren't paying 50,000 over list,
Yes.
but people weren't getting a steal either.
No, no, because there was um, less demand, significantly less demand. There was also very little inventory on the market. So when
Hmm.
you couple that together, prices remained steady.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing right now. And if you think about it, everyone, the market in December and January, I was telling everyone to go ahead and buy because there's less competition. People that, like you said, if only way you made a move is if you needed to.
Hmm.
You had family matters that had to be resolved. You got relocated. If you needed to sell, that's the only reason why people typically sell during that first in December, right around Christmas
Hmm.
time, and then in January. And I've actually had several buyers lock in some great deals because there was less competition in that market.
Yeah.
But if you think about what has happened since then, and this is a question to the viewers, has the housing market heated up or has it cooled off since January? Please, in the comment section, put hot or cold if you think it's heated up since. I'm trying to get some interaction here. It's been a while since I've come on
I was gonna
live.
say hot and cold. I
Uh,
feel like we're playing a
Hot
game.
and cold,
Like
please.
we're on our
Uh,
treasure hunt.
I'm
We're on
trying to get
treasure
some
hunt for information and feedback.
some interaction because I understand I went away for quite a while, but I'm back.
We're back.
Um, we have hot. Yes, it has gotten hotter. Thank you, Danny. Uh, and so, at least in the Charlotte area, the greater Charlotte, I can speak for all the Carolinas for that matter, because I look at all the data from North and South Carolina. The market has only gotten more competitive
Yeah.
since January. More
I mean,
buyers
we're
have
back
come
to
onto
seeing
the
multiple
market.
offers.
Yes,
It's like
more buyers have come to the
a market
market.
that's crashing does not have multiple offers.
No, no, especially in that median price point.
Hmm.
That median price point, you said you're seeing multiple offers. I see stuff from my team and what I do. You see way more contracts nationally than I do. What what has been happening since January regarding the housing market as far as activity?
Still seeing sellers being willing to entertain seller paid closing cost on some homes, right? So that always kind of feels like sort of that transition market where it's like, okay,
Mhm.
I don't want to drop the price, but maybe I'll pay some of your closing costs. um, but just from the standpoint of, really kind of getting into, uh, we've started to see inventory go back up, but nationally we were very close to essentially touching all-time lows.
Yes.
And that's the thing is, it's just like the cavalry isn't coming with a ton of inventory. This foreclosure wave didn't happen. The builders can't even build. I know we're going to talk about new construction, but the builders can't even kind of build ahead because they're still, kind of. I know when we first met, our first conversation, you were talking about bifurcated markets.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of complex kind of pressures that don't show immediate relief, because then you've got sellers who have, a 3.5% rate and they look at 6.5 and they're like, dang, like I'd like to move up. Like I'd like to, get something different, or maybe I want the neighborhood with a pool, or maybe
I
whatever.
I have people
Maybe
that
I'll
want to
just
move
wait on this a
down.
little bit longer. That's
Yeah,
hard to swallow.
but very hard to swallow. I have clients that want to downsize. I have
Hmm.
several. I'm thinking of three right now that want to downsize. Did the math, and for a smaller home, they're going to be paying more money
Yeah.
because they locked in a 3% interest rate. So they're like, I guess I will continue walking up the stairs,
Right.
right? I guess
Right.
I'll continue walking up the stairs because they're like, it doesn't make financial sense for
Right.
me to downsize. Yes, it'll be comfortable and all that, but I'll be paying significantly more, right?
And that's, I mean, that's absolutely a factor of it because like what
Mhm.
am I getting for my money? Right? Like does this feel like a good exchange of what I'm getting for my
Mhm.
money versus what I'm getting? And that's obviously that's different for everybody, but it's also kind of psychologically difficult to, let go of that rate. So a lot of the conversations that I'm having with people who are selling and buying, it's not as dire as like I have to sell, but it kind of gets to whatever that personal tipping point of is, my commute's too long, or I'm moving with my job, or, you know, it's school districts or whatever the case may be, and that's going to continue to be the case. But I think that that will keep inventory low, which means we're going to have the multiple offers. That's going to support values. It kind of goes, round and around. I will say that when we see rates dip below 6, particularly, it seems like kind of one of the sort of the magic thresholds is around 5.5.
Yep.
Something there's something psychologically different about just getting right below 6, right? Like, will we see threes and twos again? Gosh, I hope not, because I really don't want to have another national pandemic that
No,
caused all the dynamics that made that possible. But
no.
fives look really good when, not too long ago we were helpfully in the sevens, and still some scenarios have sevens today. So
Mhm.
if kind of that prevailing rate is under 6 and the closer it gets to 5.5, that sparks a lot of interest, that drives traffic, that drives demand, that will support prices. And we might even see not only just multiple offers, but I could see some people offering over list again, which is just, we're right back in the same bucket.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've actually have several listings coming to the market, and we're looking at, when we're pricing it, trying to see what we're going to price it at and everything. In each of the communities, there's only like one other home on the market that's a comp.
Hmm.
So just based on, again, I have a strategy where I like to price it just below to hopefully bring in multiple offers. But
Hmm.
I can't be mad at my clients for wanting to shoot for the moon because there's literally no other competition on the market, right?
Sure. When
And
they're
it's
like,
all
hey, if I'm going to
yeah,
turn right around and be a buyer,
mhm,
I might as well try to get my gains on some side.
exactly, exactly. So no, I get it, and there's very little resale inventory.
Hmm.
And I've set a actually true story. I set up a search for a client recently, and she's been getting the search for about 2 weeks now regarding what she wants in a home and everything, and daily email for her and her family to look at. And she sent me a message saying, "Hey, can you include more than just new construction in the search?" And
Here are
I,
5 more homes.
yeah, so I went back and looked at the search parameters, the criteria, and I'm like, I did include all homes. I included resale and new construction. Just so happens that new construction is all that's available right now. That's
What
active.
price point was that?
It was under 375.
Wow. Yeah.
Under 375 on the outskirts suburbs of Charlotte.
Hmm.
Um yeah, yeah.
I
So
I can see that for sure. I mean, I think that that tracks with, what I'm seeing is because people, if they want or need something that's, a lower budget,
mhm,
it's kind of like going further and further out in the county, and then they're getting, grandma's house or mom and dad's house that needs to be sold. I'm saying, and that's where I think,
mhm,
you know, I think we had kind of had this conversation. I mean, the market wasn't great pre-pandemic. Like, it wasn't
no.
great in 2019. Like, we were like, oh my gosh, we feel like we're being strangled. Like, this is untenable, and it only got, tighter. So I don't know from a data standpoint, kind of like what we could correlate this with. Like, is it kind of 2021 levels? Is it 2019? But somewhere in there, I think that that's why things like house hacking, really an interest in real estate from a strategic standpoint. Like, this is really part of my financial plan. Let me give
Yeah.
this some attention versus just like, oh, okay, push button, get mortgage, get home.
Mhm,
It's where we're getting into, like, again, the house hacking, or the um, buying with parents or buying from parents, and the gift of equity, and some of those strategies really, I feel like, gained in popularity because, again, kind of coming back to earlier in the conversation, it's a way where you feel like, okay, I don't feel like the system is set up for me. I don't feel like it works for the average person. So is there a way that I can find like some secret, path through, to get ahead? And I don't blame people for that. And I don't, kind of to come back to the LLPs, I don't blame people for being upset about it, because it does kind of feel like, oh, okay, well, they jerked away the football from Charlie Brown again, and it's
No.
it all kind of moves together, I feel like.
Now we did get a comment, a very spirited comment from Richard, talking about the LLPAs, and so we went over that. Please, if you haven't seen that part, go back after it's over with and watch it from the beginning. And we talked about what actually is taking place, and how, yes, it can be perceived as socialism and all that, but when you look at it and break it down, it's not a big difference. It's not a big difference in everything.
It's not a big difference. And at this point, we still even talk about government loans, right? Like we talk
Yep.
about FHA, USDA, and VA as government loans, but with Fannie and Freddie being in conservatorship since 2008, that's kind of essentially a government loan as
Yep.
well. However, they still maintain their own private company charter of why they got started, which ultimately is to support affordable housing. So
Hmm.
affordable housing looks like first time home buyers are getting increasingly squeezed out of the market because it is harder to save up that money. It's harder to access, even kind of getting your foot in the door. So I
Hmm.
think that that's probably why some of that was weighted, because again, don't think that it's meant to penalize, but I think it's, hey, the way that this was set up is not in line with what truly the charter of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac say that they're here to do. Because if we
Yeah.
did not have Fannie and Freddie, and you're looking at private money, just look at what rates are on non-QM loans, or basically, kind of non-standard loans.
Yeah.
You're in the high sevens, you're in the eights,
High
sometimes
sevens.
nines. That's
Yeah.
what non-securitized, essentially kind of government supported mortgages would look like, which
Hmm.
I don't necessarily know that I would want to buy a nine. Seven looks a heck of a lot better now, but that's where some of kind of that subsidy in general that all of us benefit from, originates.
I've been looking at some stuff, and I like to invest as well. And it's hard to cash flow when it's a eight in there, right? It's
Hmm.
hard to, like,
Hmm.
it eats away with the cash flow. So no, I've played around with the QM, and truthfully, I'll tell anybody that's watching is try to find a home that may not be done up as you may like it, that needs some work, that's been on the market a while, and make an aggressive offer for that. And I've been doing that. I'm telling you exactly what I've been doing. I've been doing that, and even I even got lucky in our area with some seller finance
Hmm. Yeah.
recently. So again, if you take a step back, remove emotions, and find something that, hey, how can I help make it a win-win for the seller and yourself? If you keep getting beat out, or looking at properties, I say do not look at the ones that just hit the market, because chances are, if it's moving ready, it's going to see a lot of traction immediately. In my neighborhood, there was a home, actually, there's two homes, but there's a home that went on the market Thursday, and by Saturday, it had multiple offers and still taking backup offers, and it's under contract. And we're talking, it's well over the median, right? Median
Yeah.
price for our area. So it is. But with that said, there was another home in my neighborhood that was on the market for 4 months, and I'm waiting to see exactly what closes, like how it closes, and looking at the numbers,
Hmm.
because I threw some creative numbers at them, and they said no, because I'm like, it's just sitting there, right?
I mean,
Um,
you don't
they
know, you
said
don't get
no.
what you don't ask for. So.
Exactly. So I'm waiting to see what happened there. But to you all, please, uh, if you keep getting beat out, if you feel discouraged, take a step back, look at stuff that's been on the market for a little while that may need some
Hmm.
work, and price that into your offer, of course, right? Just be smart about how you approach it, because you're only going to frustrate yourself and your realtor and whoever if you keep going after these brand new hot listings, knowing that, I'm not saying you can't compete, but knowing that you're going against multiple offers, and your due diligence, or the different terms of your offer may not be the best. You're only going to keep frustrating yourself.
I was actually at the dentist today as well, but not for myself, for my daughter, and was talking with one of the ladies that works there, and we were just chatting. She was talking about I said, oh, I'm a mortgage lender, and she's like, oh, I did that a couple of years ago, and I said, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad you got a house. What did you do? And I thought she said something that was just such a smart kind of mindset to go into it. Is she said,
Mhm.
so I had some money to put into it. Obviously, if it is a buyer that's looking for a low down payment, you do kind of need the house that's close to move-in ready, or be patient,
Mhm.
to DIY over time,
Yep.
yourself, and save some money that way. But she said, I found a house that was just this little gem. It's about 20 minutes from where we are, kind of not up and coming, but it's because it's not on the cusp of up and coming. It's here, but
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah. Yeah.
nice what's all going around there. And she said, I think it was a little too expensive for an investor, or a flipper, but it was not. It was like too expensive for a flipper where they felt like they could kind of make that margin. But
Mhm.
then for your average buyer, and I would say I would be one of those people, because I don't have that vision to come in
Yeah.
and rip out a wall and make things
Yeah.
happen right. I'm like, oh, that would stress me out. But
Mhm.
from the standpoint of, then for the buyers that do want to kind of walk in and have it move-in ready, it needed too much work. And so
Yes.
either they didn't, have the appetite to do that, or they didn't have the money. And she was like, so I got a great deal because that was perfect for me. I could
Yeah.
get it at a price that I was happy with, put in enough money to make it feel like it's mine, and have it kind of to what I enjoy. And
Yeah.
it didn't have competition, because you have to kind of find those
Find that niche, right? That
little
sweet
niches
spot.
like
That
that.
sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Most definitely. I want to pull up this article real quick
Mhm.
from Market Watch, talking about new home sales.
Mhm.
How the annual rate is 683,000 in March versus 623,000 in February. So we
Mhm.
saw where new home sales actually grew. There's several channels that people send me videos for, uh, real estate doomsdayers, saying how new construction builders are going under, how they're going to liquidate everything. Based on these numbers, it doesn't look like they're going under.
I don't think
Uh,
so.
yes.
I mean, that's the thing, fear
Yes.
sells.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like, okay, let's go beyond the clickbait headlines, right? And let's
Hmm.
get into the real data of it. And I think that that's one of the benefits that we have in our industry, is when you get down to it, it's a lot of fact-based and and data-based things. We can give our opinions, we can give our strategies, but ultimately it's kind of like the numbers are the numbers. Um, and I would agree. I mean, I think, again, kind of talking about, going back to Case-Shiller and those numbers, and same thing for the builders. It's like, you think about what's happening in February and March. Really, the seed was sown in November, December, January, and
Hmm.
certainly, prior to that. Um, but I feel like, just kind of the general sentiment around that time was a lot more like, okay, I'm just going to brace for the worst. Like, it's coming, it's going to be awful. Sky's falling. Let's just weather it through the winter. And then we kind of got past, sort of that time change Easter, sort of phrase, and it's or
Hmm.
phase, and it's like, okay, well, first quarter wasn't that bad.
Right.
We might be all right. People have kind of settled into, okay, this is what rates are for now. It's not an odd spike that's going to go away in 2 weeks. And I wanted to buy a house then, and no, I don't love that my payment is higher, but I still really want to buy a house. I still really need to buy a house. And that's
Yes.
where I think we're kind of seeing some of that consumer sentiment of like, well, I'll refinance later, but at least I can get a
Exactly.
home now, because
Ex-
I waited out 2020, I waited out 2021, and I really don't want to go another year waiting for some mythical crash that the data doesn't support will happen.
I have two clients that I'm working with that basically they told me, they're like, look, I waited. I don't want you to think I was spinning your wheels, but I waited. I was told, I was thinking prices were going to crash,
Sure.
and this was last year when rates were at around 4. They didn't act then, right? And now they're coming back and like, look, I want to buy something. I don't want to go ahead and renew my lease again. And they see that what they can afford now isn't quite as well, it's not anywhere near what they could afford last
Yeah.
year, but they're still wanting to move forward because They're tired of waiting for this mythical crash, and the numbers again aren't aren't bearing that out. Where everybody's saying home prices are going to fall, especially I'll tell everyone it is really where you are in the country. Your
Hmm.
location matters greatly.
Yeah.
Out west, we see home prices coming down, right? Here, where we are in the greater Charlotte area, just because of, uh, I think it is our economy, right? The weather,
Hmm.
that's a multitude of factors. We have hundreds of people, almost a little more than 200 actually, people coming in every single day and not enough housing. And I get it, not all of them are going to buy a home, want to buy a home. But let's say even a third, it's more like 50%. Um, there's not enough housing for everyone, so they end up competing for it, right? And
Right.
then that's causing rental prices to go up too. We have some questions. What what are your thoughts on the current situation with custom builders? I will touch on this real quick. It really comes down to their price point, in my opinion. Uh, if it is a custom builder that can make homes in whatever the area's median price is, in the Charlotte area, it's around 380. So if you can build anything less than about 450, I think you will do very well. I think they won't be able to hold on to those.
Hmm.
But when you get into the sweet spot, I believe I've been looking at is like right around 825 in our area, double the median, right around give or take some. Uh, those homes are sitting on the market a little longer because
Hmm.
less people, there's less, portion of the population can actually afford those homes. And at that point, that's typically a luxury home. And most people looking for a luxury home, it's not their first home, right? That has to be a want. It's not like they need to buy another luxury home. They're probably moving from an upper middle class home to a luxury home. So it's not a necessary a need. So those homes have been sitting on the market. So custom builders playing in that higher price point, you have to have a very unique proposition or value add to that property, whether it be the location, is it on water? What is very attractive? Is it the school district that everybody wants to be in, right? Like, what is that calling card for that home? But it really depends on the price point, in my opinion. What do
Hmm.
you think the current situation is for custom home builders?
I would agree. I mean, I think all of that tracks with the conversations that I have with people, because a lot of
Mhm.
times the calls and the messages that I get are, hey, you helped us get our home in 2017 and we are thinking about moving up, but maybe we'll remodel. Can we have a call? Right. And it's, what do the numbers look like if we move? What do the numbers look like if we remodel? What are the loan options if we remodel? What if we buy, from a national builder? What if we custom build? It's a lot of kind of this, um, wanting to do something, but
Mhm.
not quite sure, just because part of it is, well, what do we think the market's going to do? So it's getting the comfort level with that. And then it's just understanding, that it's not comparing apples to apples.
No,
Because a lot of times it's like, okay, so remodeling your home is going to be different than buying new. But do you love your neighborhood? You just need more space, or now because, maybe, both adults are working from home, they're like, we really kind of need two offices. I've
Mhm.
been shoved down in this little like dungeon basement,
Yeah,
bedroom, and I'm
yeah.
losing my mind. Like, I'm thinking about this one client I talked to, and they were just like, I just need an office where we can both have light. And I'm like, yeah, let's make that happen for you. Like, I can tell this is very, very important. I mean,
Both have
I'm
light.
here,
They're not asking
that
for anything crazy. Just light. They want light,
right.
right?
Just give me a window, right? Just pull me out of the
Yeah,
dungeon.
yeah.
And so where I think that comes is like, it's a lot more complex conversations that I'm having. It's a longer timeline, because
Mhm.
it's almost kind of like they have to sort of like test out a little bit. Like, okay, we've got this initial idea, and then maybe they have a conversation with a general contractor, and they're like, whoa, okay, that number's too hot. I don't like that. So let's
Now,
go back over to this, custom build
mhm.
again. And that kind of circles back to that conversation of, can I get exactly what I want? Maybe I'm overpaying for it right now in the sense of the rate, but
Yeah,
if I can stomach the payment now, I can improve it later. And that's
exactly.
where people are weighing out their personal preference and kind of what their options are.
So I'm smiling because I have my sister Shahida Hill in the house. Thank you for leaving a comment. If you one, I want to make sure you leave your contact information, share with your contact information with everyone, and please find her on YouTube and Instagram. Amazing follow, Rebecca. Again, I found her on Instagram. I was giddy when I saw her in person, and then I'm like, so real quick, so as a kid, you go meet your favorite basketball player, and you're antsy. I was giddy when talking to her, and then she sat next to me during the during the conference. I'm like, yes, yes. So you sat next to me, and I'm like, this made my morning, right? It made my
Well,
morning.
we had a great exchange, I think, about
Yeah.
VA loans, and I was like,
Hmm.
"Yes, I can tell that, like, you're passionate about it like me," and you're like,
Yeah.
Let's talk about it." Like, it very
Hmm.
rarely or is anything, super pro or con, but,
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, yeah, meeting of the minds all day long."
That works. That works. But if you also follow Shahida Hill, she is, I call her, she's my sister, my big YouTube sister, and the OG. She is very laid back. She's a former teacher and really just walks through the entire process regarding the home buying, selling process, and different issues that may come up.
Yeah,
Excellent person. So please follow her. And Rebecca, please, can you provide, I'm gonna type it in the chat.
sure.
What is your email, or how would you like people to contact you?
So typically, best way to contact me is you can either probably best way to contact me just through social is I am here on YouTube. I'm trying to learn, so I need to learn from your big sister too. But definitely respect that delivery because real estate is already dramatic enough. We don't have to make it more so.
Yeah.
Um, but probably easiest way is to DM me on Instagram and on Instagram and TikTok, which are my primary social platforms. I'm the.mortgage.mentor. So the mortgage mentor, and then just a dot in between each word.
Just put it in the chat for everyone. Please go follow her. Uh, she is very creative, and she makes it fun. She makes it fun. I'm not as creative as you see. You get this
Oh,
backdrop,
please.
and you get me in
I'm not
black.
accepting that. No, sorry.
You get me
Sorry. It's your
in bow
channel, but
tie.
no, I'm sorry. I'm going to tell you, no.
Oh, I did do something unique on this live stream. Is I went live both on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. That is a
Oh,
first for
cool.
me. So I'm like, I'm trying
See,
to get it. I'm trying to get it.
we're turning the tides on Technology Tuesday. We
Yeah,
got this.
yeah. Um, so I want to bring back this article talking about. Sorry, the we're talking about how home sales surged,
Hmm.
and then hold on, highlighted. New home sales rose 9.6% to an annual rate. We already talked about what that rate is, $683,000 in March, 83,000 in March. So new home sales rose. They didn't crash. Pulte, it's a, I saw they just have their stock is at a record high right now.
Hmm.
So somebody that a new home builder, uh, they're feeling quite strong about the market right now, much stronger than they had for the past 6 months. And
Right. That's new.
yeah,
I
yes,
mean, for a little bit, the builders were kind of like,
yeah,
hey, but that's the thing is and I think that that's sometimes the reason that buyers, not just to have, something new and shiny and all that, but I think
hmm,
it's almost kind of hitching your wagon to their buying power, right?
yep.
Like at least you've got a home, you don't feel like you're in limbo land, and I see that appeal for sure.
And one other thing is the median sale price for new homes in March was 400, almost $450,000. Um, and the supply of new homes fell 9.5% between February and March, equaling 9 months of supply. So
Hmm.
again, you hear these videos, these people talking about tons of supply, and even I think it was Knight saying he sees a lot of new construction in his area.
I
And
saw
again,
that. Yeah.
it depends on your location, right? But hold on, I'm trying to pull it up. Yeah, here we go. It depends on your location, but on average, in general, the supply throughout our nation is coming down. So what
Hmm.
happens when supply comes down? in the peak of the what is traditionally the buying season. So supplies down, demands up. I'm very fearful of pricing continue not go to the moon because mortgage rates will keep a buffer on it, but
Right.
still getting multiple offers. People, at least in North Carolina, the high due diligence fee
Yeah.
that scares me because that actually caused a lot of people to not even be able to play. They could
Right.
afford the price of the home, but when you saw 30, 40,000 due diligence fee, it was
Yeah.
like I can't compete with that.
Well, and that's where I feel like a lot of lenders and realtors, I mean, kind of those conversations around there, people are like, oh,
Mhm.
this must be great. The market's so hot. And it's like, no, like
Yeah,
I don't love that for my clients. That's the exact opposite of housing affordability. Like the
yeah,
average person can't just casually drop 30K and hope that the house isn't a total dog.
yeah.
Um, and I don't like it when it gets that overheated because it just doesn't
That's
seem, it's just it's not a healthy market.
no, it's not healthy at all. I'm trying to find something real quick. Please, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. We will get to them. In the meantime, make sure you follow Rebecca on Instagram, the.mortgage.mentor. And I am pulling up the next article right now.
I feel like going through these articles is a snapshot of like my 11:30 doom scrolling at the end of the day.
Oh man, yes, yes. Here we go. Screen share. This just goes back to make sure I pulled up the right one. Okay.
Hmm.
Home again, Mortgage News Daily article from earlier this month. How home prices in 7 month slide. Again, home prices are quite unique in the sense of how they're calculated and how people look at them, and you can twist the numbers because correct me if I'm wrong, or if you have, I want love to know your opinion on it as well. But you can have home prices show negative year on year, but up month over month, right?
Right.
So it's like, what are you, the average person, like, well, I don't know. I'm hearing this. You tell me this. I hear everybody else telling me this awful news. What
Yeah.
am I supposed to do?
Well, and I think that what feeds into that is it's sometimes difficult to try to have just very neutral. I know somebody that we're both fans of, Logan. He says be the
Yeah, yeah,
detective, right?
yeah,
Like I'm not
yeah.
trying to put a spin on it. I'm just trying to say what happened here or what is likely to happen based off of data and
Hmm.
prior history. Because even though it's now at this point 14 years away, 2008 still feels very fresh. And people, because it did not seem, although people that, were in the industry, were like, this doesn't, this doesn't seem good. Like, this doesn't make sense from a risk standpoint. But
Hmm.
for the majority of, Americans, it was just like, oh, times are good. And then it just felt like it fell like that. And that's where I think that some of that, concern is it's easier to believe, the negative spin
Yeah,
because nobody wants to be taken advantage of, right? Nobody wants to worry about kind of not being aware this
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
But
nobody
then,
wants to be a sucker. Nobody wants to catch a
yeah,
falling knife. I get it. Nobody
yeah, yeah,
wants to do that. But homes, like a house, is like everybody sees it as an investment, but it's more than just that, in my opinion, right? So you can't look at it as just an investment. And I say something that a lot of people get angry at, but all matters regarding housing can be resolved in time, right? With
true,
time, it all can get resolved. Where, yes, home prices may be falling, maybe crashing. If you bought at what in '05, '06 at the height of the market, when you saw everything go down, you thought it was the worst. But
right,
if you held on to it, if you held on to it, you more than doubled your money.
right.
So everything can get rectified with time. It's just how patient and how willing are you to allow that time to pass.
Well,
And
and I was going through this exercise. I had I think what sparked it was a Facebook memory or something, but it was an article that popped up, and so then I just kind of went down personal rabbit hole, like, okay, let me look up housing articles from 2018, housing articles from 2019. And now, kind of having the benefit of hindsight and all that, it's like, wow, yeah, none of that happened.
No,
None of that,
no,
like, the doomsday stuff just just didn't happen.
yeah.
And that kind of, I don't know. I was trying to figure out how to frame that into a video, to kind of take somebody on that journey with me. But I think that that's part of it. Is it's like you said, it's time,
Yeah.
and we can be so hyper focused of what is my neighborhood doing and month over month, and because of all kinds of other pressures. And
Mhm.
certainly real estate is more accessible than ever to people. We can pull up apps and track things and track our values and all that kind of stuff. But it's like when you pull back and you get some time on it, like even think about like
Mhm.
what it was like in December and January, and now we look
Yeah.
back and be like, oh yeah, it did kind of feel tense, but it seems all right now. And it's
I had
like,
that conversation. Recently because December, January, I had, I think I might have told you, I had like 4 transactions fall apart in January, and I'm like, this is not good.
you're like, this is it.
This is not good. But it was when they got pre-approved. Those four were new construction. They got pre-approved when the rate was
Three and a
four and
half.
something. It was four and
Yeah.
some change, and then rates were, let's say, high sixes, sevens, and they couldn't. The numbers didn't work.
Yeah.
So um, I was down, but I was fortunate enough to. I try to look at things that half positive anyway. As far as glass half full anyway, is I shouldn't complain because I had other closings, and there's so many people in our profession that would have loved to even have those amount of closings lined up, let alone some of them fall off, right?
Right.
So
Right.
just fortunate enough to be in that position to where it didn't really impact anything. But I was really um, what I what I was really disappointed in was three of those buyers, because one was just an investor or whatever. He didn't really matter to her. She was doing something else. The other three were like, this was something very, very important to them, and they
Yeah.
did not get that home. So
Yeah. Well, it's personal. I mean, that's the thing,
yeah,
is like, even after doing it many, many years, it's like, this isn't, I think the information that I present is data driven, and
yes,
kind of like, okay, let's take the emotion out of it. But when it comes down to individual clients, I mean, you get to know them very well, especially kind of on our side with the mortgage stuff, like, we know backstory of job
yeah,
changes or medical events that impacted their credit or whatever the case may
hmm,
be. And we get to know these people and understand how important and how much of a milestone it is to buy a house, particularly when it's your first home. And that's where I think
yes.
it's, I'm rooting for them. Like, I want the market to be good for them, so they get a chance, so they get a shot at it.
I'm with you. I'm 100% with you, and that's why I'm terrified as far as lower inventory. We just saw in the article, lower inventory going into the prime, what typically is the buying months.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen with pricing and competition and stuff like that? That is something that I am concerned with. I'm not concerned with a housing crash. I'm concerned with people actually being able to get that home that they want because rent is only going up, right?
Right.
So that's one thing I'm definitely concerned with. And this
Well, and
article
that's
just talked.
the last thing. I don't know, we
No,
were
no, you're
we
good.
were trying to stay on time, but that's also some of the conversations that I'm having are kind of, we're seeing the sort of like reluctant landlord effect again. So it's not from 2008 where, hey, I need to hang on to this home and rent it out because now I'm underwater, or I just want to wait it out, and let time fix it. Now it's, well, dang, like, I mean, I've got, great house, it's got equity, I've got a great rate, I don't want to let that go. I'll
Yep.
rent it, and maybe the extra cash flow that I'll get on the rent helps me then buy this next house.
Yeah.
That's where I think we're also seeing some of that. It's again, it's kind of that cycle of, well, I'm not putting a home on the market, but
Hmm.
I am buying a home.
Exactly. Exactly. Um, Last point is, unless there's something, just another question that somebody wants to ask, or if something you want to bring up, but just from another source, Black Knight reported
Hmm.
that home prices rose 0.16% on a seasonally adjusted average basis, which was the first increase in 7 months.
Yeah.
So again, prices, unfortunately, waiting did not turn out to be the best option for a
Hmm.
lot of people. So please take this advice. And everybody's in a different situation. Understand your scenario is different than everybody else's. But based on the data and the numbers as far as supply of homes and the amount of buyers going to market, uh, see if it is prudent for you because to move forward and buy now. I actually think in the last 6 months, the best time to buy was November, December-ish.
Yeah.
Um, but if you look at everything, I don't believe waiting is going to solve your problem as far as thinking the market is going to get better or different. We have a question regarding what do you think is going to happen regarding pricing in the third and fourth quarter based on what we're seeing now. I think we're going to stay relatively even. That's just my prediction based on what I'm seeing right now. I don't see huge adjustments, but just because I don't see it doesn't mean it won't happen. Because if there is a surge of demand with this low inventory,
Hmm.
prices will go up.
Hmm.
And yes, they will come back. They will come down some in August, which is typical seasonal, August, September, October, November. But will they come down enough to where it's less than what it is right now? I don't know. And that's what people were banking on this past year. And yes, prices came down, but interest rates doubled, right? So it was you kind of lost.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like I remember. Oh my gosh, I feel like at this point it was probably 2017, 2018.
Mhm.
I felt like kind of we used to see more of a roller coaster, right? Like first quarter was just terrible, and then
Yeah.
it would start to take off in April, and then for some reason I'd always have like a dip in October instead of August. But around that time, kind of 17, 18, that really leveled out. It's like I
Mhm.
remember like commenting to people, I'm like in January, like this feels like a spring market because I think
Yeah.
what has happened is each time kind of like it goes around, it's like, well, it's too rich for my blood. I'll renew for another 6 months or another year,
Mhm.
and I'll come back to it. And then when it comes back up, it's kind of like more people just start to kind of get in line because they're like, well, I saw what happened the last time that I waited, so I'm not going to wait now. And
Yeah.
it's kind of an interesting dynamic.
And now I'm not asking you to predict the mortgage rates and all that, but I saw there's articles and what Barry Beebe talking like predicting that they will come down come May-ish and
Hmm.
all that. What kind of impact do you believe that will have on the housing market if mortgage rates do come down to that 5.5%? I know you touched on it a little bit, but
Yeah.
that coupled with what we see as far as housing supply coming down.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm right there with you. That's where I'm honestly a little nervous for the summer because I think it would
Mhm.
be great to have some rate relief, right?
Yeah.
Um, but again, that threshold right now seems to be around six. And here's my little PSA. When the news gives rates, they're very general and they're delayed. So when
Mhm.
the rate, so when the market, so a lot of times when you hear in the news like rates went down today, it's typically 24 to 48 hours delayed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
find a lender that you trust. I'm licensed in 30 states, but find a lender that you trust and
Did you hear
that's
that? How many states? How many
what'd you
say
say?
that won't? How many states again?
30,
30 states.
30
So
states.
yes.
And my team covers over 40 now.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
So
but
definitely
that's the
reach
thing is
out
like
to her.
you've gotta work with a lender that's really going to have their pulse on it and be able to
Mhm.
respond quickly because if you hear it in the news, it's going to be too late.
Too late.
And that's why I'm scared of the summer is because when I think when we start to see rates dip below six, when the kind of word gets out, people are gonna be like, oh, this is my chance. This is a real
And it's
relief.
too
And if
late.
we get to
It's
five
too
and a
late.
half, that's going to feel like free money.
Free
You know.
money. Yeah. Most definitely. And I think we're going to see as we go further into the year, housing numbers and inflation data go down because of the housing numbers, right? You're going to
Right.
see that come down. So that's going to ease things up. So again, I'm very cautious. And one
That's why we're
thing,
very much looking at that May 10th date, so we can get that
yes.
year-over-year data and see if we can
Mhm.
get the kind of the inflation easing data that is gonna be a little bit of a rocket fuel to the market, I think.
Yeah. James, you reached out about a certain community, Stanfield, North Carolina. Um, reach out to me. I like that area. I do think it's a solid buy, but we can get into depth regarding what I see as far as, again, every area is different. What I see regarding population growth and happening in that part of North Carolina for several years down the line, because you asked about when it's time to sell. Do you think it'd be a good value? Biggest thing I have to tell you to look at while we're talking general is see what rents are in the area and see what your mortgage payment will be. And if you plan on being in that area for several years, which it sounds like you may be, um, does it make is it wise to have your own property versus paying somebody else's rent while you're in that area for several years?
Hmm.
So that's just a general rule, but we can get into depth regarding what's happening as far as growth in that area. But I think it's a solid area to move in. And I like True Homes. They are a semi-custom builder, and they are typically on the more affordable side. So I do like them. I do like them a lot. Uh, Real quick, while we're about to head out, share your contact information one more time so people can reach out to you, follow you. And again, thank you for giving me, it was more like an hour and a half, 2 hours of your time
Listen,
because
I'm
because I
I'm
got
telling you,
issues.
I get excited about boring
Yeah,
things. I could do this
yeah,
forever. I think my family just wants me to feed them at some point. But
yeah.
but no, you can reach me. I'm the mortgage mentor, and so pretty much on all socials, it's the mortgage mentor, and it's the dot mortgage dot mentor. You can
Perfect.
DM me. DMs are open on all social platforms. If you Google me, you'll find me everywhere, and I would love to answer any question, even if it's a hey, I think I want to buy in a year. Am I on the right path? That's 1,000% the conversations that I want to be having with people. Does not mean don't contact me until you're a month out from your contract. That's not how I work. I like being part of the process and the build up to make sure that people are in really good position.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you again. We have to do this. Um, so not to put your business out there. How long are you not going to be my neighbor? You're moving?
Oh no, so that's I'll tell you that real quick. What
Yes.
we decided to do is, how everybody says like I wish I could go like and buy a house 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, what we decided to do was kind of build ahead. So we are building at Lake Hartwell, so it's about 2 hours away from where we are. And
Because I saw that. I saw where it was at, and I'm like, no,
you're like,
no.
where are you going?
You better come on. Like we just established this relationship. You better
I'm
come
not
on
going
back.
anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
going anywhere. But we're thinking after, after the kids are graduated and everybody has
Mhm.
flown, that then we would make that our primary. But my husband's a bass angler, so he loves all things
Yeah,
water, and that's one of
yeah.
his favorite lakes. He's
Mhm.
connected with that community, so he's down there, have some personal use of it, and then we'll Airbnb it, when we don't use it.
Yeah,
So that was our fun, kind of real estate trying to find the cheat code was
yeah.
basically building ahead.
No, it is based on the pictures I saw. It is absolutely beautiful. So I'm happy. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
crash. I'm inviting me and my family over. So
You need to have like we'll have a mastermind. I mean,
let's do it.
done.
Let's do it. That sounds good. Well, thank you again.
My pleasure.
I'll talk to you soon. And thank you all for tuning in and watching and suffering through my technical difficulties. I'll talk to you later.
See you.